Just said I wouldn't make it past 5. My parents poured everything into me. Every dollar, every minute. Every prayer was for my survival. On my 5th birthday, the house was for once loud with forced cheer. Only my younger brother, Noah, too young to grasp the weight of the moment, asked Liam, "Will you die tomorrow?" That was the first time I ever saw Dad hit him. And Mom, she knelt on the floor weeping, bowing her head again and again, begging God to give me a few more years. But on Noah's first day of pre-K, I did the unforgivable. I whispered that my chest hurt and asked for a pain pill. Mom snapped. Her control shattered and she started screaming. She slapped me so hard my head whipped back. How could you be so sickeningly selfish? Are you trying to kill your brother by stealing his one good day? We revolve around you, Liam. Can't we have just one moment to take? Come to school. If you wanna die, just die. Stop torturing us. She threw the pill bottle at me, a cascade of plastic and white tablets, grabbed Noah's hand and slammed the door behind them. I didn't say a word. I just watched the small cut on my forearm, where a shard of the bottle had nicked me, slowly begin to seep blood. My body was already going cold. The pill bottle fragment had caught my forearm. When I threw my hand up, I stared at the cut for 2 seconds. A doctor's warning echoing in my head. Kid, you absolutely cannot get a cut. The bleeding won't stop. I scrambled for the band-aids. They were soaked through in under a minute. I turned to find a proper gauze bandage, but the blood was already dripping onto the clean tile floor. Mom, Carrie. She hated messes. I couldn't add this to her burden. I panicked, tearing at my sleeve to wipe the floor. But the blood seemed to explode the moment it hit the tile, smearing and spreading with every frantic wipe. I grabbed the nearest hand towel and wrapped it tightly around the wound. The cold started then. Not just the chill of the bathroom, but a deep systemic cold that traveled from my fingertips to my bones. I stumbled into the bathroom and ran. The tub full of the hottest water I could stand. Lighting in the heat brought a momentary reprieve. The blood was still flowing, staining the clear water a dark rose color. I suddenly needed them. I fumbled with my old cell phone and called Dad's number. It rang and rang. No answer. I called Mom. The background noise was deafening music, the high-pitched shriek of children cheering. It was a party a world away from my slowly reddening bathwater. What is it, Liam? Make it fast. I was about to go on stage for the talent show. Mom, I don't feel well. I cut my her impatient voice cut through the noise. Sharp and impatient. Not well again. Do you only feel unwell when the attention isn't on you? Liam, you're 8 years old. You are a big boy. Can't you for once be considerate? Dial tone buzzed loud and empty. In the vast quiet of the bathroom, I watched the water deep into crimson. She was right. I was nothing but a complication. My illness was a complication. My unhappiness was a complication. And now my bleeding was a complication. Mom's favorite knit cardigan lay draped over the edge of the tub. I carefully pulled it over my face. It smelled faintly of her. That comforting, familiar scent of gardenia and laundry soap. It brought me back to when I was little and feverish, and she would watch over me just like this. The water was growing cold. The flow of blood seemed to be slowing, too. Maybe it was almost done. As my head started to spin, I wondered if once all the bad blood was gone, I would be better. Then Mom and Dad wouldn't have to worry about their sickly son. Noah wouldn't have to concede to his older brother all the time. And I wouldn't have to be so painfully careful, so constantly good, biting down on the pain every midnight just to avoid making a sound. I curled up in the tub, feeling as safe and calm as if I were back in my mother's womb. The next time I opened my eyes, I only saw a tiny, pale version of myself floating in the bathtub. So I was already dead. The front door opened. I heard Noah's voice, bright and full of energy. Liam, I'm home. I rushed out. Mom and Dad, Carrie and Dan walked in holding Noah's hands. Dad carried a store-bought strawberry cake. Dan paused, looking at the mess I'd left in the living room. What is all this? Carrie frowned. He was having a tantrum at lunchtime. He was mad I was taking Noah to school. So he lied and said he was sick. Dad's expression darkened. He's getting impossible. I tried to explain, waving my spectral hands frantically in front of them. No, it wasn't intentional. Liam wasn't trying to make you mad. My hand passed right through Dan's shoulder. They felt nothing. Noah broke free and ran to my bedroom door. He tapped lightly. Liam, come out and have some cake. Silence. Noah looked up. Is he asleep? I wrapped my arms around him in a hug he couldn't feel. Thank you, Noah. Mom's voice was hard. He's not asleep. He's pouting. Don't worry about him. We're eating first. Dad put the cake on the dining table. Noah watched with wide, expectant eyes. He whispered, but I wanted to wait for Liam. Dad tore open the box and exchanged a look with Mom. If Liam had even half your common sense, Noah, we'd have a much easier life. The candles were placed and lit. Noah was lifted onto a chair under the warm gaze of his parents. He blew out 5 flickering flames. It was his 5th birthday, too. Mom asked gently. Did you make a wish, sweetie? Noah's eyes sparkled. Yes. I wished that Liam. Dad smiled and ruffled his hair. Wishes don't come true if you say them out loud, buddy. I watched from the side. Every year my birthday had been steeped in the smell of medicine. The candles felt like a countdown. But Noah's birthday finally felt like a birthday should. When it was time to cut the cake, Noah insisted on the biggest slice. This one is for Liam. He carried the plate to my door and knocked again. Liam, come share my strawberry cake. No response. The smile slid slowly from Noah's face. He walked back to the table. Liam won't talk to me. Dad suddenly reached out, snatching the plate from Noah's hands. He threw the perfect slice of strawberry cake, Noah's gift, into the trash can. He slammed his hand on the table, his temper blazing. Fine. If he won't eat it, no one calls him again. He can starve until he learns how to behave. Noah flinched, his eyes instantly turning red. Mom pulled him into her embrace and shot a sharp look at Dad. Don't yell at the kids, she cooed to Noah. It's okay, sweetie. We'll eat first. When Liam knows he's done something wrong, he'll come out. I knelt by the trash can, gazing at the discarded slice. The strawberries on the cream were so fresh. Now it lay there, mingled with crumpled napkins and coffee grounds. What a waste. Strawberry was my favorite. Noah ate his small slice, slowly glancing toward my closed door every few seconds. Mom and Dad ate in silence. There should have been 4 places at the table. Now 1 seat was empty. I floated over and sat in my spot, whispering a soundless happy birthday to my little brother. That evening, Mom was bathing Noah. I hovered by the shower curtain, my heart clenching, terrified she would pull it back and see me in the tub, in the cloud of steam. Mom rubbed bubbles onto Noah's skin, looked up, his wet hair stuck to his forehead. Mom, why hasn't Liam come out yet? Mom's hands paused. He's probably just tired, sweetie. Noah murmured, but I miss him. I haven't seen him all day. Mom turned off the water and wrapped him completely in a large towel, pulling him into a hug. Noah, do you ever get mad at Mom and Dad? Mad about what? Mom held him tighter. Mad because we're always focused on Liam. Because we always give him the best things. Because sometimes we forget to give you enough time. Noah wrapped his small, wet arms around her neck. No, why would I? Liam is sick. My teacher said that people who are sick need the most help. I want to help you and Dad take care of him. Mom's shoulders began to tremble slightly. She buried her face in his towel, silent for a long moment. You're such a good boy, Noah. She sniffled. Liam. Liam is very sad, too. I plastered myself against the cool tile floor, listening as Mom continued. Your brother was born with a bad heart. The doctor said he might not grow up. Her voice was thick with tears. So your dad and I were always terrified. He was in pain, terrified he wouldn't make it. We wanted to give him every good thing we could. Her voice dropped to a barely audible whisper. But sometimes I get so tired. Sometimes I wish he was healthy. Sometimes I wish I could spend more time with you. Noah listened, not fully understanding, but patting her back with his tiny hand. I was curled up in the corner. Tears, transparent and meaningless, falling to the ground. I'm sorry, Mom. It was my fault, I sobbed. If I had never been born, if you only had Noah, everything would be so much better. They heard nothing. After the bath, Mom tucked Noah into bed. Then she walked to my bedroom door and stood there for a long time. Finally, she raised her hand and knocked gently. Liam, are you sleeping? I floated in front of her, trying to reach out, but my fingertips passed through the air. Mom shouldn't have yelled at you today. I was wrong. It was Noah's first day of school and I was so nervous. I wasn't trying to be mean. She waited, listening for a response. I couldn't give her one. Never again. Mom sighed. I left a slice of cake on the dining room table. It's your favorite strawberry. Please eat it. She stood there for a few more seconds before walking back to the master bedroom. The door closed. I went to the living room and saw the cake on the dining table. It was small on a simple plate. The strawberry tilted slightly. Late at night, I looked at the little me in the bathtub. The water was completely cold. My face was white as paper. Mom never opened the curtain. She didn't know that the cake she left was a gift I could never eat. The apology she offered was one I could never hear. I followed Mom into the master bedroom. Dad looked up when she entered. Did Liam come out? Mom sat on the bed folding clothes. She shook her head. No movement. He's older now. He has his pride. Dad. Dad took off his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. Liam is miserable, Carrie. He's never been to school. He barely has any friends. Seeing his brother go off to pre-K. It's natural he'd be jealous. Maybe we should hire him a private tutor. Mom's hands froze on a shirt. A scooter. With what money, Dan? We still owe the hospital from last month's medicine. Dad sighed and rolled onto his side. I'll start driving for DoorDash after work. A few extra hours a night we can save up. Mom turned to look at him. The bedside lamp illuminated his face. Dark circles under his eyes starkly visible. You're already exhausted from your day job. That's too dangerous. Dad waved a dismissive hand. I'm fine. I'm strong. Just my shoulder is a little tight lately. Can you put a patch on it? Dad turned his back. Mom lifted his pajama collar. The skin on his shoulder was red and swollen. I stood by the bed watching the inflamed skin, and my ghost tears fell onto the duvet. I used to complain that he came home too late, that he didn't play with me enough. I never realized that every late night, every hour he spent away was a direct act of love for me. I flew into his arms, my own invisible, desperate hug. I'm so sorry, Dad. Please forgive my selfishness. The sun rose with a cruel indifference. It filtered through the bathroom window, turning the dark, stagnant water in the tub into a shimmering, macabre gold. I stayed by the bed all night. I watched my father's chest rise and fall in the heavy, fitful sleep of a man who worked 2 jobs to buy time for a son who no longer had any. I watched my mother toss and turn, her hand occasionally reaching out toward the wall, as if sensing the coldness radiating from the bathroom. At 6:30 a.m., the alarm chirped. Mom sat up first. Her hair was a mess, her eyes puffy. The anger from the day before had simmered down into a dull, morning ache. She looked at the door. I stood right in her line of sight, screaming for her to run, to look, to call for help, even though I knew help was a concept that no longer applied to me. Liam, she called out, her voice scratchy. Liam, honey, it's time to get up. I'm sorry about yesterday. Let's start over. No answer. She sighed, a sound of practiced patience. She walked into the kitchen first. She saw the plate of strawberry cake still sitting on the table, untouched. The sight of it seemed to prick her conscience. She picked it up, her fingers trembling slightly. Still pouting, she whispered to herself, but her voice lacked the bite it had yesterday. She walked toward the bathroom. She wanted to wash her face before coming to my room to drag me out of bed. She turned the handle. It was locked. Liam. Are you in there? She knocked. Then she pounded. Inside, the me in the tub didn't move. The me standing next to her tried to turn the lock from the outside, but my hands were nothing but mish. Dan. Dan, wake up. Mom's voice rose to that pitch, the one she used when my oxygen levels dropped or when my lips turned blue. Dad came running, still in his undershirt. What? What is it? He locked the door. He's not answering. Dad didn't hesitate. He was a man who had spent 8 years expecting a catastrophe. He threw his shoulder against the door. Once. Twice. On the third hit, the wood splintered, and the door swung wide. The smell hit them first. The metallic, heavy scent of a life poured out into a porcelain basin. Mom's scream wasn't human. It was the sound of a soul being torn in half. She didn't run to the tub, she fell. Her knees hit the tile where I had tried so hard to wipe up the blood. Dad was faster. He lunged for the tub, his hands plunging into the cold, red water. Liam. Liam, no. No, no, no. He pulled the pale, stiff version of me upward. The knit cardigan, Mom's favorite, clung to my face like a shroud. When it fell away, my eyes were half open, staring at a ceiling I would never touch again. He's cold, Carrie. He's so cold. Dad wailed, pulling me to his chest, staining his white shirt a horrific, diluted pink. Mom didn't move from the floor. Her eyes landed on the shard of plastic from the pill bottle, still lying near the sink. She saw the smear of blood on the tile that I had tried to clean with my sleeve. She saw the towel I had used as a tourniquet, now a sodden, dark weight on the floor. She remembered. She remembered the slap. She remembered the words, if you wanna die, just die. She began to claw at her own throat, her breath coming in ragged, wet gasps. I killed him, she whispered, the words lost in Dad's frantic cries to the 911 operator. I told him to, and he did. The days that followed were a blur of gray. Being a ghost is a special kind of hell. You are a witness to a trial where you are the evidence, the victim, and the judge, but you have no voice. I watched the paramedics carry my body away. I watched the police officers walk through the house with soft voices and hard eyes. They found the pill bottle. They found the blood on the floor. They saw the bruise on my cheek, the one Mom gave me. They questioned them. Did he have a history of self-harm? The detective asked. No, Dad sobbed, his head in his hands. He was a fighter. He wanted to live more than anyone I've ever known. Mom sat on the sofa, staring at nothing. She hadn't spoken since the body was taken. She looked like a ghost herself, her skin a sickly translucent white. When the detective asked her about the bruise, she just closed her eyes and nodded. I hit him, she said, her voice a hollow echo. I told him he was selfish. I told him he was killing us. Dad looked at her, his eyes wide with a mixture of shock and dawning horror. They had been a team for 8 years, a 2-person army fighting a war against my failing heart. Now, the army had turned on itself. The funeral was small. There were no friends my age, only doctors, nurses, and a few neighbors who looked at my parents with pity that felt like poison. Noah was there, dressed in a tiny black suit. He was the only one who seemed to see me. Not with his eyes, but with his heart. He kept looking at the empty space beside him, reaching out his hand as if searching for mine. Where's Liam? He whispered during the service. He's with the angels, sweetie, Grandma whispered back, her voice breaking. But he didn't get his cake, Noah said, his lip trembling. I gave him the biggest piece and he didn't eat it. Is he mad at me? I knelt beside him, resting my head on his small shoulder. No, Noah. I'm not mad. I'm so sorry I left you to handle this alone. The house became a tomb. Dad went back to work, but he didn't drive for DoorDash anymore. He didn't do anything but stare at the wall when he came home. The tightness in his shoulder had turned into a permanent slouch, the weight of his grief physically crushing his spine. Mom was the worst. She stopped cleaning. The woman who hated messes now lived in a house of dust and shadows. She spent hours in the bathroom, sitting on the edge of the empty tub, staring at the tile where the blood had been. One night, she found the pill bottle. The police had returned it after the investigation was closed, ruled an accidental death due to complications from his condition and an untreated injury. She held the plastic bottle in her hand, her thumb tracing the jagged edge where it had shattered. It was just a cut, she whispered. A tiny, little cut. She began to scream then. A raw, rhythmic sound that brought Dad running from the living room. Carrie, stop. Give me that. I did it, Dan. I threw it at him. I saw him flinch and I didn't care. I was so happy to be rid of him for just 1 hour so I could take Noah to school. We were both tired, Dad said, trying to pull her into his arms, but she pushed him away. Don't you dare give me an excuse. I told my son to die. I told him he was a burden. And he went into this bathroom, and he bled, and he called me, Dan, he called me. She fumbled for her phone, pulling up the call log. 10:14 a.m. Liam, missed. 10:16 a.m. Liam, 1 minute. I told him to make it fast. I told him he was a big boy. I hung up on him while he was dying in the dark. Dad took the phone. He looked at the timestamp. He looked at his own phone, seeing the missed calls he had ignored because he was in a meeting, trying to secure a bonus for my next surgery. The silence that followed was louder than the screaming. It was the sound of a marriage breaking. They couldn't look at each other without seeing the son they had both failed in their own desperate, exhausted ways. Noah was the only light left, but he was dimming. He didn't play anymore. He would sit by my bedroom door with his toy cars, talking to the wood. Liam, I got a gold star today. Do you want to see it? Mom says you're an angel, but angels can fly, right? Can you fly to school and sit with me at lunch? Nobody sits with me. My heart, the ghost version that didn't have a hole in it, ached. I realized then that I couldn't just watch. I was tethered to this house not by my death, but by their guilt. As long as they hated themselves, I was trapped in the cold water of that morning. I started small. Mom was in the kitchen, staring at a bottle of wine and a handful of sleeping pills. It was 2 a.m. The house was freezing. I focused every ounce of my will. I remembered the feeling of being alive, the heat of a fever, the sting of a needle, the taste of a strawberry. I funneled that energy into the air. A photograph on the fridge, one of me and Noah at the park, slid down and hit the floor. Mom jumped. She looked at the photo. In it, I was holding Noah's hand, and we were both laughing. I looked healthy for once. She picked it up. On the back, in my messy 8-year-old handwriting, I had written, Noah is the best brother. I hope he gets to be 100. Mom began to cry, but it was different this time. It wasn't the scream of a banshee, it was the quiet sob of a mother. He loved you so much, she whispered. I pushed harder. I moved toward the thermostat, trying to nudge the dial. The house warmed, just a fraction. I moved toward Noah's room. He was having a nightmare. He was crying out my name. I reached out. I couldn't touch his skin, but I could touch his dreams. I showed him the strawberry cake. I showed him the talent show he had been so excited for. I showed him that I wasn't in the tub anymore. Noah calmed. He drifted into a deep sleep, a small smile playing on his lips. Months passed. The pain didn't go away, but it changed shape. It was Noah's 6th birthday. The atmosphere was heavy, but Dad had bought a cake. Not a store-bought one this time. He and Mom had spent the morning baking it together. It was lumpy, the frosting was too thick, but it was made with hands that were finally starting to stop shaking. They sat at the table. 4 places were set. At my spot, there was a small plate with a single, perfect strawberry. To Liam, Dad said, raising his glass of milk. To Liam, Mom echoed. Her eyes were still sad, but she was wearing the knit cardigan again. She had washed the stains out. She had mended the hole where the shard had nicked it. I have a wish, Noah said. Don't say it out loud, buddy, Dad said, smiling sadly. No, I want to, Noah insisted. I wish that Liam knows we're eating his favorite cake. And I wish that Mom doesn't cry when she looks at the tub anymore. Because Liam told me he's not cold. The room went still. When did he tell you that, Noah? Mom asked, her voice trembling. In my sleep. He hugged me. He said he's a big boy now, and he doesn't need the medicine anymore. Mom looked at Dad. For the first time in a year, they reached across the table and held hands. I stood in the corner of the room, bathed in the glow of the birthday candles. I felt a lightness spreading from my chest. The cold was gone. The smell of copper was replaced by the scent of gardenia and laundry soap. I walked over to the table. I leaned down and blew on the candles alongside Noah. The flames flickered wildly. Did you feel that? Mom whispered, a tear sliding down her cheek. Yeah, Dad said, his voice thick. I felt it. I saw them then, not as the parents who had snapped, not as the people who had failed me, but as the two people who had given me 8 years of a life I was never supposed to have. Every dollar, every minute, every prayer, it hadn't been a waste. It had been the foundation of my soul. I love you, I whispered. For a second, Mom looked directly at me. She smiled, a real, broken, beautiful smile. We love you too, Liam. The light grew brighter, pulling me toward a place where the heart never fails and the blood never flows too fast. I took one last look at my brother, who was shoving a giant piece of cake into his mouth, and at my parents, who were finally learning how to breathe again. I wasn't a complication anymore. I was a memory. And memories don't bleed. As I faded into the white, the last thing I felt was the warmth of a house that was, for once, loud with genuine cheer. I had made it past 5. I had made it to forever.